Welcome back to my channel for another short Leica episode. Back then, when Leica introduced the Leica SL2-S, I was one of the first to have it in my hands because Leica was kind enough to give it to me over a weekend so I could test it out and shoot it. But I never purchased the Leica SL2-S, and the reason is I was waiting for this. Because here we have now the new Leica SL2-S Reporter Special Edition, not limited edition, but that was what I was waiting for. And in this video I will unbox the camera, I will explain everything you need to know about that camera. Let's kick off the video. Alright, let's open the outer box first. Like always, let's try to do this careful. We don't want to damage anything here. Let's see. Here we go. Let's turn this upside down. Let's get the outer box out of the way and let's have a look. All right, this is it. Leica SL2-S Reporter style, and it's the version for the European Union, the US and for Japan. And I think that's all we have on the box. So let's open this and let's see what's inside. Here we go. Here's some interesting information about aramide, which is actually the material which is used for the finish on the camera body. I'll come back to that later, but here you can read all about that material. If you want, then we have the usual brochure from Leica, the essential, and we can skip that. We have a very brief short or quick start manual here, and we have the same manual also in German. And then we have here the usual certificate. Someone signed up for the quality assurance. And we have something else. Let's see what that is. Oh, this is conformity declaration. So let's open this further. Packaging material. Here we have a first bag. It's the usual Leica bag. It's a soft bag, quite nice. Let's see what's inside. Looks like an SL2-S battery charger. The battery is the same like on the SL2, as I pointed out in my first look video on the Leica SL2-S. And here we go. So that's the battery charger. And I typically load my batteries in the camera and not in the charger, but it's good to have it. Here is a shoulder strap. It has a Leica logo on it, which is quite nice, of course. I hardly use them, as you know if you follow me on my channel. Then we have here very likely the usual battery, which is the same battery which is used in the SL2, in the SL, in the SL2-S, and of course also in the Q and the Q2 and the monochrome variants of it. So let's get this out. Yes, it's the usual battery, freshly sealed. Here we go. It's actually quite capable battery. I never run out of power with my Leica SL2, so I think that's good. And then we have here, I think, a lot of cables. All right, so someone took it really serious when they packaged this box. Here we have cables, two. We have one for the US, which is useful. I travel to the US quite often. And one for the European Union and for Switzerland. And then the last piece is the camera body. Here we go. We'll have a closer look in a moment. Let's just get this out of the plastic here. This is it. Wow, isn't it beautiful? Let's have a look from the front side. And this is the new material. It feels quite well. As I said, I'll come into details into that material finish on the camera body in a moment. And it has a military or olive green color here on the camera body where you don't have that fiber here. By now I've cleaned up the mess in front of me on the table and we can focus on this beauty here. So look at that wonderful matte green finish here. And by the way, a difference also here to the standard Leica SL2-S is that you can now read the Leica engraving here, because on the standard version it's black engraved on a black finish. And here it's now black on matte green. I don't know how to call that green. It could be olive green, it could be military green, but it looks really, really nice. If I turn this around here, so if you touch it with your fingers, it's absolutely not vulnerable to fingerprints. So this camera body will very likely not get smudgy at all. And then we have, of course, this fiber here. And this fiber texture here is called aramide. And aramide is actually the same as Kevlar. The only difference is that Kevlar is the trademark brand name for aramide fiber made by DuPont, as I found in the web. So it is Kevlar and it's well known for high durability and it protects the camera case very, very well. It's typically used in military productions for protection, but also on some previous camera bodies, because that's of course not the first reporter style camera we get from Leica. We also have, for instance, a Leica Q2 reporter, but I never owned one. I always wanted a reporter camera, and this is now my personal unit here, and I'm very happy to have it. I also applied here already a protective sticker on the back on the LCD, and that's good against fingerprints, scratches. It doesn't get so smudgy, and it's also anti-reflective. So quite nice. And since a lot of people always ask me, what are you using to protect your glass on the LCD? It's this one here. And I don't get paid for showing this. It's just to shortcut some of the comments when people will ask me again, what did you apply? So this is actually the brand. It's Dipos, and I ordered this via Amazon. It came in a couple of days very quickly. So I have now this very well matching display protector at the back on my LCD screen. I also already organized 2 fresh SD cards, so they are from Kingston here, but the brand is not relevant for me. What is relevant is that this has a very high reading and writing speed. So reading is 300 megabit per second, writing is 260 megabit per second. And since we can with this camera here shoot fully professional 4K video and also have a very high frame rate per second, if we go into burst mode, I need fast SD cards. So let's load them into the camera body. And then we come to the next component, which is the battery, of course, because here we still have a hole, and here is where the battery needs to be fitted in. So let's open the SD card compartment. Then we have card number 1 coming in here. We have card number 2 going in here. You also have in the SL system always the numbers for the slots. This is slot number 1. This is slot number 2. And then we close it. And this camera is fully weather sealed. By the way, it's an IP54 standard. And you can shoot this under all conditions, and with that finish here, the Kevlar or aramide finish and this matte green finish here, it is even more robust. And the reporter style cameras from Leica have a great reputation of being the most robust cameras. In a portfolio of already very robust cameras you can purchase from Leica, so quite nice. Since I own the Leica SL2, actually I have 2 camera bodies. One is a spare body I take with me on travel. I also already charged a fresh battery here. So we can insert this now, and then we can switch on the camera for the first time. There is the usual animation. It's the same animation as you have on the standard SL2-S and on the Leica SL2. And then we need to customize now the camera. So first of all, I go for English here. I will skip for the time being the Photos app here. Let's go here, so. And I think we need to set up the time first. The time zone looks right, +1. So this is Wetzlar, Berlin, Madrid, Paris. And we can go back here. And then we have daylight saving time on. That's currently off here in Europe. And we have the date setting. And we have today November 27. It's a Sunday, by the way. So the format here is good for me. Day, month, year. That's the way we use it in Switzerland and Germany. And let's go over here. And let's go to 27. And then we go into November. And then we have 22, of course. And that's it. Then now we've set the date. So let's go to the time setting. As I said, it's a Sunday, 24 hours is good for me. And then we have currently 14. So let's go backwards here, 14. And we have 14:49. So then the time is also correct. Here we go. Let's now address the elephant in the room. Namely, why did I purchase an SL2S if I already own a Leica SL2, and in particular, as I mentioned in various videos on firmware upgrades on the Leica SL2, the functionalities of this camera and the Leica SL2 do not show that many differences, and the spec sheet on the Leica SL2 actually reads more impressive, a bit more impressive, because here we have 4K and on the SL2 we have 5K, here we have 24 megapixel and on the SL2 we have 47 megapixels. So why am I interested in an SL2S if I already own the flagship camera in the same camera lineup? Well, I openly admit when the SL2S hit the market and Leica gave it to me over the weekend to test it out and post my videos, I already was highly tempted to get that camera for myself. I didn't, because I knew that a reporter version is coming and I wanted to wait for that, because I always wanted to have a reporter camera from Leica, and this is now my personal unit here. So I always wanted to own this camera, and there are various reasons why this is the case. First of all, this is the better camera for video. And the reason is, although you have only 4K, only quote unquote, it provides the best quality standard you can have in video. You also have here all kinds of options with LUTs, and what have you, but a lot of these options have been also installed now on the Leica SL2 via firmware updates. But for video, I think this is the better camera. It's also the better camera for sports and action, because if you have 24 megapixel, let's by the way switch this off to save some power. If you have 24 megapixel, that's a better resolution for sports and action than 47 megapixel. You also get a higher frame rate per second on burst mode, and I think this camera is ideally suited to be shot with tele lenses for sports and action, and you know, for wildlife observations, what have you. It's safe to claim that this is the best sports and action camera in the Leica lineup, period. There is no better camera. The Leica SL2 comes close. The M cameras are typically not used for sports and action, also you can use them if you want. And the Leica Q2 is quick in autofocus, but is not in the same way autofocus capable as this camera here. So here, this is really the best camera. If you look for sports and action in the Leica universe, this is the one to go to. Not necessarily, of course, in the reporter finish here, but the standard version, because there is no difference in the specifications and the capabilities of these cameras, whether you go for the reporter or for the standard version. It's also the most robust camera Leica offers. The Leica SL2 has a great reputation of being very robust, and I did shoot that camera under very weird conditions, environmental conditions, and it never let me down. And the SL2-S is in the same way, as I mentioned before, IP54 certified. It's robust, it's weather sealed, the lenses are weather sealed. It is a very robust camera case, but here with that Kevlar on top of it, it becomes the reporter standard, which makes the camera even more durable, and that's what I always wanted to have. So this is a camera you can take with you for travel. You can shoot it in a desert, on the ocean, in the sand, in rain, what have you. It will never let you down. And then last but not least, this Kevlar or aramide fiber here makes the camera very nice in hand. And if I have my hands here around the hand grip, you know, my pointing finger on the shutter button, this is the opposite or contrary or slippy, because that material makes it very convenient to hold it in hand. It will never slip out of your hands, and it's a very nice way of shooting a camera, of course. After setting date and time, daylight savings and time zone and what have you, the first thing I typically do with a new camera is setting it up and customizing it for my personal use. I'm not going to do this here, and I think that is probably a topic for another video if there is interest in such a video. Some basic things I can do right now. So we go very likely here to autofocus continuous, and here very likely I want to go to spot metering here, and so on. So I will customize the camera, I will set up the control wheels and the function buttons for my personal liking. And I will also set up all the parameters for shooting video, shooting photos, and the way I typically operate a camera. What I also check always at the beginning is the firmware version. And here we have here under camera information, firmware version number 4.0. That's the newest one, already including perspective control on the Leica SL2-S. And I actually have made a video about that new firmware. So on the SL2, I think it's firmware version 5.0. And on the SL2-S, it's firmware version 4.0, and it brings, again, new features. Leica has a great history in providing new functions via firmware upgrade, and you should always make sure you have the newest version on your camera body. So I will set up the camera and customize it now on the go, and then I want to shoot it in Zurich on a Christmas market with friends and family. Want to test it out, and I also have a special lens I want to test on this camera, namely the Apo-Summicron-SL, widest open f2.0, 75mm. It's an aspherical lens. It's a lens, astonishingly enough, I never showed in a video on my channel. I've reviewed basically every Leica SL lens on my channel. This one I never showed, so if people are interested in getting a fully fledged review from me on this Apo-Summicron 75, please let me know and I will do so. Let's quickly mount the lens on the camera body. So let's get the body cap off here. Let's here get the lens cap off. Then we mount this in the usual way. We have an alignment dot here in red. Then it snaps on. And we also have a lens hood for this one here. Here we go. Beautiful camera ensemble, don't you think? Matte green finish, Kevlar or aramide here, and an Apo-Summicron 75mm. Nothing is standing on the way for a very nice Sunday afternoon, so I will go outside now and enjoy myself. And if you like that short episode about the new reporter version for the Leica SL2-S, please don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel, there's always more to come. Thanks for watching, stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.